reliable and very accessible. Hey guys, so I have been living in the United States for the last 10 years. I became a US citizen back in 2015, and I have been wanting to make this video for quite a while now, just to show you how I see America after being here for 10 years. I also compared it to my life I lived in Morocco, and this is also because I have been to Europe a few times, and I would like to list some of the things that I have noticed, things that make America different, and pretty much list some examples of culture shock. Just a quick disclaimer before we start. Obviously this is my experience and I'm not generalizing. It's basically my impression after being here for 10 years. So if you do not know anything about me, I lived most of my life in Morocco, and to be exact, I lived in Morocco for 23 years. I came to the United States after being accepted at Southeast Missouri State University, and eventually graduated, got a good job, got married, and I became a US citizen. So the first thing that I have noticed is Americans are really nice. Americans are very outgoing, they're very friendly. They will smile, compliment you, and they like small chat. This is not the case, however, in Europe. This is one thing America shares with Morocco, that people are very friendly and outgoing. However, this is not something you should expect in Europe. People keep to themselves, and that's just, who they are. In Europe, small talk with strangers is not a big thing. So Americans will compliment you, smile at you, and have a small chat with you even if they don't know you. So that's one thing I actually like about America. Another thing that comes to mind is Americans drive a lot. I am not sure if this has to do with accessibility of public transportation. It could be, but this of course has to do with the fact that America is pretty spread out and the geographic location is pretty big compared to most European countries or even to Morocco. I also think this has to do with the urban planning of American cities. Like, things are not within walking distances in most American towns. Most of the time you have to drive to just go to the market and grab milk or bread or anything. Most people live pretty far from places that should be within walking distance. Another reason is the fact that public transportation in most American towns comes with some kind of stigma. So it is somehow understood that if you ride the bus, it's because you can't afford a car, or maybe you're poor. While public transportation in Morocco, for example, is used by most people, using public transportation does not necessarily mean that you're poor. The same thing can be said about Europe, where public transportation is pretty reliable and very accessible to most people, and it's pretty cheap as well. Americans just rely so much on their cars to get around, and I've even noticed that people would rather drive than to walk somewhere that's not even a mile away. One of the other things that I noticed, and I actually noticed this when I first landed in the United States in Chicago, is that there is a lot of advertising. Everybody wants to sell you something. There is a lot of ads, a lot of commercials, and once you set foot at the airport, you just can't help but notice that there is a lot of ads, a lot of signs, and most of the time it's always some kind of product that promises to make your life better. And if anything, it shows that Americans always try to make life better. However, it's just really not one of those things that I appreciate a lot. It just felt like it's sometimes like a materialistic society. Of course, I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying that every American is like that. That's just the impression that I get. What I found mostly surprising is the fact that there is prescriptions and pharmaceutical ads on TV and prescription drugs. I've just never seen that before. Another thing I think Americans do more than anyone else is that the fact that they work a lot. It never made sense to me when I heard someone say that they work 2 or 3 jobs. It just does not make any sense. And this is not because, one job is not enough, but it's mostly because people live beyond their means. People have a lot of debt. This is a great country. One job would be enough to make a living, but I really think people go a little overboard, with their spending. So they end up with a lot of debt, and hence they have to get 2 or 3 jobs. And this brings us to the fact that very few Americans actually take vacation. At my job, a lot of people actually take their vacation time to go see a doctor or get stuff done, but not a vacation, to pamper themselves or anything like that. Again, this is not all Americans. I live in Florida, so yeah. Another thing that I have noticed is the fact that Americans eat out a lot. A lot of Americans barely cook, and even when they cook, it's mostly frozen food. Very few Americans cook or have a meal together with the family. People rely so much on fast food, and some people even eat meat for breakfast. That I just could not get used to. And people just don't tend to eat healthy in general. People eat a lot of processed food, and fresh foods are really expensive compared to say Morocco or Switzerland or Austria. There is this huge culture or subculture about losing weight and people going on diet, and it's all unnecessary because again, people eat a lot of processed food. A lot of people drive instead of walking, and you see all this vegan movement, vegetarian movement, and just one of those things that make America unique. One thing I appreciate about America is the fact that customer service is really wonderful. I mean, you go to a supermarket, for example, they make sure you're very taken care of, make sure you have found what you're looking for. In Switzerland, for example, go into the supermarket, you have to put the stuff that you buy in your own bag. They don't give you a bag, and you have to do it yourself. They wouldn't even smile or ask how you're doing. It's just the way it is. Another thing that I have noticed is has to do with parks. A lot of American parks are really beautiful, but for some reason they attract a lot of homeless people, and you barely see just everyday people hanging out in parks. In Europe, however, you see just everyday people with their kids hanging out in parks and having a good time, but for a reason I don't understand, American parks attract a lot of homeless people. One of the things that a lot of people will agree with me about is the fact that Americans are very loud. Americans are very confident, they speak their mind, they're not afraid to express what they think. It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg! And when you go to Switzerland or Austria, for example, people are pretty quiet. I don't know, I don't want to say shy, but it's just like they really think it's rude to kind of be loud in public places. Another issue, without getting political, is safety. If anything America is known for is, gun ownership. I'm not saying I'm against guns. However, Swiss people have the right to bear arms as well, but they don't have as much crime as we do here in the United States. So guns are not the problem. People are the problem. And I'm not criticizing every American out there. There are a lot of responsible gun owners. I'm not gonna say there is a lot of crime compared to Europe. It's just because America is so big, we tend to politicize everything that happens. But the safety thing is definitely an issue. People are usually afraid or paranoid. I mean, these days you barely see kids playing outside. If you go to Morocco or many places in Europe, for example, you see kids walking to school on their own. Yeah, so it's one of those things that I wish we could go back to like it used to be here a long time ago. Obviously, I'm not speaking for every American. I can't speak for other foreigners as well. Everyone's experience may be different. Again, I am a proud American and I love this country and I wouldn't live anywhere else. So feel free to disagree with me, and if you have any comments, place them down below. This one is a little tricky because I do not want to offend anybody, but when it comes to general knowledge, Americans are a little on the negative side. I talk to a lot of people, and when I say that I'm from Morocco, most people confuse Morocco with Monaco. I've also met people that think that Africa is a country. I also met people that thought Morocco is basically a desert and people ride camels. And pretty much everyone knows this. Like in terms of geography, we are really kind of ignorant when it comes to world geography, because I mean, America is the world. Other places don't matter because America is such a big place that people spend a lifetime trying to discover this country. So a lot of people are not very interested in other cultures or other, you know, countries. But I kind of noticed that it's beginning to change in the last, maybe last, I would say 10 years, even though I've been here only for 10 years. Another thing is the fact that, you know, if you go to Morocco, for example, people speak different languages. People speak Berber, they speak Arabic, speak French, Spanish. A lot of people are becoming very proficient in English as well. The same thing in Europe. A lot of people are able to speak different languages. In America, unfortunately, the languages are not a big thing. People do not just really care about learning languages. Again, it's also one of those things that's beginning to change. I do see people becoming more and more interested in learning Spanish, French, or Chinese because of, you know, the importance of China in economy. More and more people are becoming interested in Arabic as well, because, you know, the Middle East is such a hot spot right now. So Arabic is considered a critical language in the United States. So if you speak Arabic, there is a lot of money to be made. I actually do translation and interpretation on the side, and it's really good money. I also have students that I teach standard Arabic to, and it makes really good money compared to a lot of jobs. So that's pretty much it. That's my impression. I hope you liked this video. And if you have any questions or if you disagree with me, feel free to do that in the comments down below. If you like this video, please like it or share it, subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching. Thank you for your time.